Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video we'll be taking a look at the Warpcoven kill team from the White Dwarf magazine, and then comparing it to the Thousand Suns from the Compendium. In this video we'll be using the Kill Team Compendium and the White Dwarf magazine, issue 469, which is the October 2021 issue. The Kill Team Compendium gave us some data cards and some information for the Thousand Suns, and altogether there was 8 pages in there. But here you can see the White Dwarf article is giving us loads more information now. We're getting a ton of new features that we can use in our Spec Ops narrative campaigns, and altogether we've got 18 pages to go through. This is quite a lot of information, and it doesn't apply to all the different ways to play. So I thought I'd just spend a couple of minutes before we dive into the article, just breaking down each piece of information and just doing a little diagram here to show which way to play uses each piece of the information we're going to go through. And let's get started with the kill team name, the operative names, the background table, and the squad quirk table. Now all of these are going to apply to all 3 of the different ways to play. We're also going to use the kill team that tells us how many operatives we can take into our kill team. We're going to look at things like ancillary support for the Krieg or psychic abilities for the Warpcoven kill team. We've also got abilities, the data cards, strategic ploys and tactical ploys, and so they're going to be used for open play, match play and Spec Ops narrative play too. Now we're moving on to equipment and Tacops, and that's going to only be used for match play and Spec Ops narrative play, and as we go through the article it will tell you when and where you bring these into your game within the way to play mission sequence. And then finally we've got the base of operations, battle honours, rare equipment, strategic assets, requisitions and Spec Ops, and these are going to come into play during the Spec Ops narrative play, so you won't use these in the match play or the open play. I hope this little diagram helps you out. It certainly made things clearer for me, so I thought I'd share it here before we dive into the article. So now let's take a look at that article and we'll start working through it and then making comparisons to the compendium as we go. I didn't know anything about the Thousand Suns until I'd read through all this, and so I thought I would just read the first article that introduces you to the Thousand Suns. So if you're not into them either yet, then maybe this will give you a taste of what they're all about. Powerful wielders of empiric energy lead hosts of spectral warriors, all favoured servants of the chaos god of change, Zenith. Events shrouded in lies and treachery 10,000 years ago led them to a terrible fate, but one that granted them great power, even in damnation. They are motivated as much by a desire for revenge as an insatiable lust for arcane power. Patient and ruthless, the sorcerers of the Thousand Suns devise schemes that can take centuries to unfold and are weaved with secondary plans, hidden agendas, and diversionary feints a foe will never begin to understand. So that's a brief introduction, and there's a little bit of narrative you can also read through there, a few pages, just to give you an idea of what they're all about. Now we're on to page 98 of the White Dwarf, and we've got 2 pages here with lots of different tables to go through, and most of these tables we're going to use for all the different 3 ways to play. And the first 2 are just regular kill team labels, so you can come up with the name, you can choose one or roll a dice. Then we've got the first name and second name tables for our operatives, so you can again roll randomly or just choose whichever ones stand out to you. Then at the top we've got the base of operations, which is only going to be used for the Spec Ops narrative play, and then we've got backgrounds, which is just going to give you some narrative to build into your kill team. Again, that's for any style of play. And then you've also got the squad quirk, again narrative only, no rules here, this is just kind of for you to use. Perhaps you'll play in a certain way based on the background and squad quirk that you choose, and you can choose randomly or you can just select one that you like. Next we get a little bit more text just to read to introduce us to what they're all about, and then we get the Warpcoven kill team page, and it tells us the archetype, which for these guys is going to be recon and security. And then we get the list of the operatives that can make up a Warpcoven kill team, and this includes, where relevant, any war gear that those operatives must be equipped with. And so here we can see that we can take in one sorcerer operative, and they're going to be equipped with a force stave and one of the following: either an Inferno bolt pistol, a Prosperine Kopesh, or a Warp Flame pistol. And the Warp Flame pistol is a maximum of 1 per kill team. And then as well as the sorcerer, we can have 10 Warpcoven operatives selected from that following list. I'm not going to read through the whole list, but it just breaks down all the different operative choices that you can have. And we'll have a look at the data cards in a second anyway, where we go through all of them in detail. And now at the bottom of the same page, these are the rules for the amounts that you can take in. So it says that other than the sorcerer, rubric marine warrior, and Sangor fighter operatives, your kill team can only include each operative from that list above once. And this kill team can include up to 3 sorcerer operatives, but you cannot select a second gunner operative until your kill team includes 4 rubric marine operatives. So there's a little bit of a rule in place there, so you can't have more than 1 gunner operative until your kill team has got 4 rubric marine operatives. And then in the select a kill team step of the mission sequence, you must select 1 friendly sorcerer operative to gain the leader keyword for the battle. And then it says if your kill team includes 4 or more Arcana Astartes operatives, this kill team has the security archetype. And if your kill team includes 5 or more Zangor operatives, this kill team has the recon archetype. So there's a few rules in place there, especially that one with the gunner. If you want a second gunner, then you're going to have 8 rubric marines in total. So that would give you 8 rubric marines, 2 gunners, and you have to choose a sorcerer as well for your leader. So, you know, that's the only way you can have 2 of those gunner operatives, is to go all out rubric marines with 2 gunners and then a sorcerer. So straight away, this is a big difference from the Compendium, and you can see here that this is a copy of the Compendium, where 1,000 Suns kill team would consist of 2 fire teams selected from the following lists, and from the rubric marine fire team, that's only going to include 2 rubric marines, and so, you know, that's quite small. And then the Sangor fire team is going to include 6 operatives altogether, so very different already. You could have gone with 2 fire teams of rubric marines, only giving you 4 operatives, or 2 Zangors giving you 12 operatives, or 1 of each giving you 8. So with this new Warpcoven kill team, you're taking 11 straight away. Now we're back to the White Dwarf magazine, and we're going to look at abilities. Now there was no abilities included for the 1,000 Suns in the Compendium, but here you can see we've got a whole page of them. So this is a huge step up from what we've seen in the Compendium already. I think there's so much involved in this page, this could almost be a video on itself. So I think it's best if you have a good read through, because there's a lot of rules involved here as to what you choose from each of these boons. You've got mutation, fate, and aetheric, and you've got 3 different things you can choose from each of those. So yeah, there's a lot going on. There's like 9 different boons to choose from, and lots of rules associated with the different operatives and which they can choose. So that would certainly be a video on its own. Next, we've got psychic actions, and in White Dwarf magazine they're called psychic actions, but in the Compendium they're called psychic powers, but they're totally different. So these are very different. So let's have a look at the White Dwarf first. So it tells us here with psychic actions, and there's 3. They're Destiny Discipline, Temperic Discipline, and Warpfire Discipline. When a Warpfire Sorcerer operative is added to your roster, you must select one of those psychic disciplines for it to study. And that operative then knows the psychic powers associated with that discipline. And then each time a friendly sorcerer operative performs the manifest psychic power action, which we'll see on the data card in a second, you select one psychic power it knows to be resolved. But you can only select each psychic power a maximum of once per turning point. So you can see this is very different from this clip taken from the Compendium. And even in the setup, in the psychic powers for the Compendium, it tells us that the first time a friendly 1,000 Suns aspiring sorcerer operative performs the manifest psychic power action, in each of its activations you select one psychic power from the list, and that's Doombolt, Firestorm, Immaterial Surge, or Twist of Fate. But the second time they perform the manifest psychic power action, you roll a d6, and on a 1 to 2, that operative will suffer 3 more wounds, but on a 3+, they select one from the list to be resolved, and you cannot select one that you've already resolved during the turning point. So that bit's the same, but they could actually suffer mortal wounds themselves with the psychic powers, but that's not mentioned here in the introduction to the psychic actions in the Warpcoven kill team. Now we're on to the strategic ploys and tactical ploys. And so with the new Warpcoven kill team, you get 4 of each to choose from. 4 strategic ploys, 4 tactical ploys. But with the original Thousand Suns kill team, you only got 3 of each. So they've changed them, they're very different, and you get extra ones with the Warpcoven. So lots of information within these strategic and tactical ploys. So again, I think you could make a video just on these really and go through how they affect the kill team and what tactics they can employ using them. So I think this is best to read through and decide which ones you want to use for your kill team. Next we're on to the data cards, and here we've got the Sorcerer for the Warpcoven in White Dwarf and the Aspiring Sorcerer from the Compendium. And so you can see there's quite a difference here. The same model, we've got the same image, we've got the same movement, APL, group activation, defense, save, and wounds. So that's all the same. But when we start looking at the different weapons and the different conditions and special rules, you can see that there's some differences there. So the new Sorcerer for the Warpcoven has almost got less in the way of weapons there. They haven't got a plasma pistol, so they're not going to get the standard and supercharge rule included in their weapon profile. But the Sorcerer does get an extra ability called Rubric Command there, and so that's not included with the Aspiring Sorcerer. So there is a benefit that they are going to get. So a few differences in the weapons and an extra ability for the Sorcerer. But I'm not going to read through everything on all these data cards. I think if I did that, the video would just be massive. It would go on for a long time. But if you do like the look of the Thousand Suns and want to build a Warpcoven kill team, I think this will just give you a little idea of what they're about, and hopefully that will help you decide whether or not to get the White Dwarf magazine or not. Now we've got the Rubric Marine Gunner, and so we can only have one of these for every 4 Rubric Marines, and we can see that the character profile, the weapon profiles, they're all the same actually. Is there any differences there? Let's have a look. It all looks the same. 3, 4, 2, 3. Oh no, so we've got a slight one on the Warp Flamer, that's changed, where the critical damage with the Rubric Marine Gunner in the Warpcoven White Dwarf version is now 4, whereas before it was 3. So I think that's the only difference I can see there. And then in the abilities, All in Dust is expanded upon, and there looks to be an extra condition in there as well. But everything else pretty much looks the same. Next is the Rubric Marine Icon Bearer, and the same thing, the character profile there, the weapons, they're the same. The abilities have all got the same names, but it looks like they've changed some of the conditions there. I can see a blue square where there was a blue square in the Compendium, but now we've got the red pentagon, so there is some changes there. So well worth reading through and seeing if they make any improvements for your kill team. Now we're on to the Rubric Marine Warrior, and again, the character profile, the weapons are the same, the abilities the same, but just reworded. So the first part is the same. Each time a shooting attack is made against this operative, if the ranged weapon has a normal damage characteristic of 3 or less, this operative is treated as having a save characteristic of 2+ for that shooting attack. So that's the same for the All is Dust ability, but they've tagged on that this operative cannot move more than 3 white circles during its activation. So there's that, and favoured by change, that's the same as well. The operative has a 5+ invulnerable save. Next we've got the Zangor Champion, which is in White Dwarf, which we didn't see in the Compendium. And we've got the Twist Spray from the Compendium that we don't see in the White Dwarf Warpcoven kill team. So we've got 2 different ones here. So with the Warpcoven, you're not going to have the Twist Spray. But this Zangor Champion looks pretty good. He's only got 8 wounds rather than the Twist Spray's 9. But the weapons have got quite a bit going on there. He's only got 2 weapons, whereas the Twist Spray's got 3. But he does have a unique action called Savage Assault, which we don't see with that Twist Spray. And this is a cost of 1 action point, and he can perform a free fight action, and after completing that action's fight sequence, if this operative is still within engage range of an enemy operative, you can immediately fight in combat with this operative again. You do not have to select the same target. So I can certainly see that unique action coming in handy. I think that's a really good one. Next we've got the Zangor Fighter, and this to me looks exactly the same. But if any time throughout the video I've missed it, then please add it in the comment section below. I'm sure I've made a few mistakes and hopefully I'm saying it right as well. But let me know if I do miss anything. Next we're on to a Horn Bearer, and this looks again identical except for the unique action which has changed slightly. And now it reads that the Bray Horn unique action, 1 action point, and until the end of the turning point, add 1 black triangle to the movement characteristic of friendly Zangor operatives. That's nice and easy, so you want to get this guy going quite early on in the turning point, I would imagine. Use that unique action, and then he can really spur on the rest of them who haven't activated yet. But this is very different from the Compendium version of the Hornbearer, where the unique action was still 1 action point, but it told us that each time a friendly Zangor operative performs a normal move or a charge action, it can move an additional 1 black triangle. So I've been trying to work out if that's an actual benefit or not. I don't know which one's better, the one from the White Dwarf or the one from the Compendium. But it seems a lot simpler in the White Dwarf one, where you just add that black triangle to the movement characteristic of the friendly Zangor operatives, rather than for every normal move or charge action they make, add that additional 1 black triangle. So I think it's just worded slightly, but charged is included in the Compendium version. And now we're on to the final data card, which is the Zangor Icon Bearer. And this looks exactly the same. I've read through the actions abilities. It's all worded the same too, so I can't see any differences there. Let's have a look at equipment, and this is going to come into play for match play and Spec Ops narrative play, and it'll tell you when you can use the equipment in the mission sequence. It tells us at the top of the page here that any equipment marked with a plus sign can be selected a maximum of once, and each operative can be equipped with no more than 1 of each. And we're starting off with the Gargoyle Bayonet, and that was also included in the Compendium as well. That was there, but now we've got a special rule for the bayonet as well, so that's good. So that's an improvement on that one, and it's also 2 EP as well. That's the same. There's some others that are the same as well, like the Gilded Horns, but there's some that are different, so, and also worded more for the Sorcerer rather than the Aspiring Sorcerer. So a few changes there, but again, a lot of information on 1 page, and I think it's well worth reading through that and deciding which equipment you'd like to use. Now we're on to Tacops, and again, this is going to tell you when to use this in the mission sequence, but you can use this for match play and Spec Ops narrative play. You won't be using that in the regular open play. And so this is where the Compendium finishes now, so we're just going to focus on White Dwarf for the rest of the video, and so the Tacops included in there are going to be brand new, and there's nothing to compare them to. But Tacops are secondary objectives that you can attempt to achieve in certain battles to earn victory points, and you can find a load of them on pages 138 onwards from the core rulebook. And the different Tacops will apply to the different archetypes, so bear that in mind as well when you decide which operatives to put in your kill team. But here we've got some Tacops that are going to be specific to the Warpcoven, and so this is going to allow you to kind of play in a lot more narratively for sure, but it's going to be a lot more matched to what they can do and their different abilities. So there's 3 altogether. You've got the Faction Tacop 1, Scry Secret, you've got Sorceress Ritual and Grand Plan. So they're all going to have different rules attached. Again, it's a lot of information on 1 page, which could be a video on its own. I think once I start doing the deep dives properly for each of the different factions, when I start playing them and learning about which ones work well and which ones don't, I'll go into a lot more detail about these. But this is really just an overview to show you what's included. Now we're moving on to the Warpcoven Spec Op rules, and we're starting off with Battle Honours, and this is only going to apply to Spec Ops narrative play. And so for the next 4 pages that we're going to go through from the White Dwarf, there's only going to be for that Spec Ops narrative campaign play. So in the core book, the core rulebook, you're going to get battle honours for each of the different specialisms, and you see those specialism logos in the bottom right hand corner of the data cards. And they've done some extra ones here though, specifically for Warpcoven, just like they did with the Deathcore Krieg and the Commando Orcs as well. So here you've got 3 extra ones. You've got one for the Rubric Marine Specialist, the Zangor Specialist, and the Sorcerer Specialist. So again, these are going to play into that narrative and just give you a little bit more kind of faction-focused battle honours rather than the generic ones in the core book. Same theme continues with rare equipment, strategic assets and requisitions. These are all designed with the Warpcoven kill team in mind. So you get your rare equipment, your strategic assets, and also your requisitions. So that all comes into play with Spec Ops narrative play. And as it says here on requisitions, that you can use the following requisitions in addition to those presented in other publications like the core book. So again, more faction focused and more choice. Now we're on to Spec Ops, and a Spec Op is a campaign objective you must achieve over multiple games. And by completing its operations across a series of missions, your kill team will further the goals of their faction and can be commended for their exploits. In the core book, you're going to get 10 Spec Ops to choose from, but here for the Warpcoven, you get an extra 2, and that's labyrinthine plans and arcane artifacts. So you can choose those in addition to those others. So you've got 12 to choose from instead of the usual 10. And there we go. That brings us to the end of the White Dwarf article, and a ton of rules there. If you're a fan of Thousand Suns and want to build a Warpcoven kill team, then I think this is great news for you. I think really to get involved in this, you'd have to spend a lot of time focusing on that kill team, going through the different options, playing them a bunch of times, and then really working out which rules work best for them and which ones you can choose to put all these different tactics together and overlap them and get them all working together to get some wins in on the battlefield. I thought this new kill team was going to be quite similar to Warcry, where you could collect a bunch of different factions, have loads of different kill teams, and then just dip in and out, playing them one here, one there, not really focusing on one over any of the others, and really just playing lots of different ones. But I'm finding it's certainly not the case for me. I think this is really a game of focusing on a kill team, really going deep into what they can do, and then working out how you can use all their tactics and the different abilities, unique actions, all the things we've gone through in this video, how you can make that work for you to win some games. And with that in mind, for me, it's definitely not like a casual game, one you could play, just pick up and play. This is a real competitive game, really suits the match play idea, I think. And, you know, if you're coming up against some smart opponents, you could just get wiped out completely here, as they'll start to know their kill team inside and out, and then maybe once they've done that, start learning the other ones too. But I think it would be really difficult to learn a lot of kill teams and how they work based on all the information that's available for each of them, certainly when they're going down this route of bringing out these in-depth articles for the different ones. For me, I think the way forward is to real pick a kill team, focus on them for a while and get to know them really well in depth and play them a lot of times and really get to know what they can do. So the deep dives aren't going to be coming thick and fast like they have for Warcry, because there's just so much involved here. So I think I'm just going to focus on one at a time, really get to know them, and then do a deep dive video and share it. But I'll still do these like overview videos because I think it's a good way just to share what you can get from these White Dwarf magazines and articles like this, and then hopefully it'll give you an idea as to whether or not this is something you'd like to pick up for your collection. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this new Warpcoven team and whether this is something you'd be interested in playing, and what did I miss? What stood out to you the most? Let me know in the comment section below. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. If you like this kind of content and would like to support the channel, then please check out my Patreon page, and thanks to everyone who's joined so far. It's really awesome. We hang out on Discord, talk about the hobby, share ideas and help each other out, and you'll get some perks there that you're not going to find anywhere else. So I'll put a link in the description, and it'd be great to see you there.